I'm Katherine Goldstein, a Nieman Fellow this year, and I'm honored to share in the introduction of Louis Diuguid tonight. So there's been a lot of conversations here at Nieman and across the country about what's wrong with American journalism. The presidential election left many of us wondering how effective and relevant journalists were in covering the Trump phenomenon. But even before Trump was elected, we could fill many hours of ominous talk about untenable business models, the decimation of local journalism, and the perpetual, unsolved problem of the lack of diversity among leaders in our field. In selecting Louis Diuguid for the Lyons Award for Conscience and Integrity, we wanted to highlight someone who exemplifies what's right about American journalism. And that doesn't always mean the person who talks the loudest or who has the most Twitter followers. During his nearly 40-year career as a reporter, editor, columnist, and editorial board member at the Kansas City Star, Diuguid tirelessly used his voice to draw attention to societal inequities, write about civil rights, and highlight systemic injustices, from education to immigration to homelessness. Louis has been one of the few African Americans at the Star and the only one on the editorial board, which he first joined in 1999. The fellows were also impressed with Louis's deep commitment to newsroom diversity, including creating a summer camp for minority youth to study journalism. He has set a wonderful example for our industry, one we hope others can learn from and replicate throughout the country. Louis is a shining example of why fearless local journalism still matters. The fellows are well aware that we are living in a moment of heightened tensions among racial, gender, ethnic, and religious lines in the United States and beyond. The class of 2017 wanted to recognize a journalist with a history of working towards easing these separations, but who also hasn't been afraid to speak truth to power. We are eager to see what important work Louis will do next. And Jenee will finish our introduction.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jenee Osterheldt, Nieman Fellow, class of 17. I was 21 when I met Louis Diuguid, and I walked into the start of one of his summer camps, and he was having a meeting in the cafeteria, and someone was like, "You should go sit in on that and just hear him talk." And I just snuck in the back, and he goes, "You're late!" He thought I was a high schooler, and I was like, no, I'm here to work. And he's like, "Oh, okay, have a seat." So I sit down. He starts giving them a talk about integrity and showing up on time and being well-dressed and being professional. And afterwards, he apologized to me, which I didn't really need an apology, but here's this amazing man apologizing to me, and he told me to come by his office as soon as I got a chance. So I go by his office, where there was always Mr. Goodbars, Hershey almonds, crackles, every type of fun candy bar waiting for you. And an old school typewriter, beautiful pictures of his daughters, who I, to this day, get mistaken for, and I don't mind. And boxes and boxes of hate mail. Letters, cassette tapes, old school cassette tapes. Louis was getting trolled before trolling was a word. And he sits me down, and he has a real stern, honest talk with me about what it means to be Black and have a platform in the newspaper, and what your responsibilities are to your community, and how when you speak truth to power and you have that knife, you just keep stabbing them. You just keep stabbing them with the truth. Hope it's okay I'm telling them this. And I knew then that I wanted to be like Louis. I didn't know it before that moment, but I just started paying attention to him. I spent the rest of my career kind of chasing Louis to be like him, to hold myself to that standard. And he was cheering me on the whole time, and not just cheering me on, cheering every young person who walked through the door on. Not just the black person who walked through the door, but every woman, anyone of color, anyone who needed help. Lewis was there to help them. Every summer he had me come and talk to the students about how to write a lead and how to use your voice. And I've never seen anyone care more about mentoring and shaping people, shaping young journalists to do the right thing, to do the things that we argue about today. You know, are journalists trustworthy? Do journalists understand what the truth is and what honesty is and what their jobs are as gatekeepers? Lewis has done it all. So when we started having these discussions about conscience and integrity, I immediately thought of Lewis, and not because I love him, because I do. Not because I love him, but because I couldn't think of anyone who embodied these characteristics more. And when I told you all last night, you know, I had gotten tired and exhausted, and I felt like I just was getting sick writing all these stories about racism. And Lewis, the person who lit a fire under me, pulled me to the side one day and said, you know, sometimes you got to take a step back and take a break. I don't know if you remember this, but he told me I was doing the most a little bit, needed to take a break, which was kind of funny because I never saw Lewis take a break until the last couple of years. But it was also a wake-up call, and it was one of the things that allowed me to feel really good about applying to be a Nieman. So we're really honored to present this award to you.